Hello and welcome to the Creedcast. This is a special standalone preview that we're doing today for the preview for our upcoming game, Round 8, the Showdown, Thursday night at Adelaide Oval. It's a big game, and as much as we like to pretend the Crows don't really matter to us, which they don't, the Showdown is a big game for us. It is a rivalry game that's steeped in history, it is steeped in hate. It is a classic kind of format the window game, like where the clubs are sitting competitively within the wider AFL doesn't really matter at times with this game. Upsets on both sides of the coin throughout the history of this game ever since it started in 1997 with our win in the very first showdown, which kind of really set the stage for what the history of it has been since. Um, it really just brings out the ultimate stress, the ultimate in fan antagonism as both sides of the divide try to point score in both shit banter, but as well as deep philosophical discussions about club histories and who is truly the kings of the state. Oh, showdown week. Let's fucking rip into it, Jamie. How do you feel about the showdown overall?
Fuck the Crows.
Cool. End scene. That's the
Say no, say
that's
no.
the podcast done.
No, yeah, no. Hello again, and for those going back to back with our St. Kilda review, welcome back. Um, yeah, Showdown week, probably always filled with more nervousness than confidence, even
Mm,
when, and probably more particularly when your team is clearly the better side on paper.
mm,
That's probably when you get the most nervous and anxious. Um, but look, undoubtedly one of, if not the best rivalry in AFL, whether anyone inside or outside of South Australia likes to admit it. It's actually got tangible history and
mm.
judgment,
Yeah.
hatred, in the background and as part of its history.
Mm,
So yeah, look, it's the game that you want to win as a South Australian, no matter what side of the fence you're on. You want to go 2-0 in showdowns for the year, fuck
mm.
the other guys, and bask in the arrogance and the glory, no matter how the rest of your season goes. Um, and I really, really want to win. Yeah, because the other thing is obviously the ledger is even Stevens at the
Mm-hmm.
moment, and you, as a fan, you so desperately want to be ahead in the ledger, whether it be one or by 7 matches. You just want to be ahead of the ledger, um, which hopefully we will be by Thursday night, the end of.
Yeah, yeah, no, it is incredible that after 54 showdowns that have been played so far, that is 27 and 27. We did start to make a bit of a breakaway again in the last couple of years, but yeah, since really, yeah, 2022 we lost that heartbreaker with the Dawson in swinger, or out swinger. No,
Hmm.
anyway, um,
Depends.
yeah, it was yeah that was a brutal one, and then we won the Robbie Gray's final game, but then yeah, last year was a real rough trot, which we'll get into kind of that in a moment. But yeah, I find the showdown such a, a tough week because I grew up in a I'm the one of I grew up in my immediate family is obviously my parents and
Yeah,
then three
yeah, you've
siblings
had
and
a
I am
lot tougher than I have.
I am the one Port fan in the entire family. So it's been rough in that sense because my brother's a fucking dickhead. I love him. I was one of his groomsmen in his wedding. He had one of the gifts for us as groomsmen was he wanted a footy photo shoot on the day of the wedding, which he made custom jerseys with our names on the back, and their like wedding date and stuff on the front, but they were fucking rose colors. So
Which is one
really,
of the ugliest Guernseys known to man.
yeah.
Let's put it
I
out
walked
there. It's
I walked around
disgusting.
the entire day saying these are the state colors, and that's all I will hear anything of.
Yeah, they've been
um,
bastardized.
yeah, but yeah, it's a game that brings out such anxiety in me because yeah, I it is there is a deep seated hatred, and I think it would be a fun thing to do actually as a standalone episode at some point as we dive into like maybe dive into some different history, like the history, maybe do like a history series as an aside as to why it is the way it is. But it is there is some deep hatred there. It's whether it's Graham Corns coming into the port rooms after
Or
the
change rooms.
yeah,
Yeah.
after the Glenelg Port Grand Final and telling us that we were ruining footy before he decided to go and coach the AFL team that was coming in a few weeks later anyway. Or
Before everything has been vindicated ever
yeah,
since.
yeah, exactly. And then yeah, just the fact that we clearly have been a class above in this state and footy, and that history is somewhat relegated at times by. I think that's what people, my point of view on it is the shit banter about our history and who we are as a club and what Port Adelaide coming in 1997 is, and the revisionist and false histories, the fake news that
Hmm.
pros fans like to do about
Gaslighting.
gaslighting about our history and the fact that we apparently are a separate team and all that stuff. Whereas people just, someone that went to college for history, it really irks me because I love. You can see the tangible, you can see the threads of our history that come through to the team that is now, and what we are, and how we got into the AFL was because of the greatness of our club in the
I'm not
sample.
taking
And
a fucking history lesson from anyone
yeah,
who isn't a Port Adelaide person. Like, and if you are a Port Adelaide person and you still kind of toe that line that you need to fuck off or you need to go back to class.
pick up. I just implore that you pick up a book. That's all I.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. Like
So
I'm very comfortable with our history and um the peaks and troughs that have come along with it over 150 plus years.
mm,
Um yeah,
yeah, and I
proud
think
of it
that's
too.
yeah, very proud of it, and I think that's one of the things that really makes Showdown Week so much more than just a game between two teams. Because you can just say, "Oh, it's just because two teams exist in the same city, you have a natural rivalry." But there is a deep seatedness to it, and and even these days, it's the point scoring happens. Currently, it's the Crows trying to find a spot to plant their team, which them
Yeah,
being a
hilarious.
a franchise born in the courtroom, then that's what's going to happen. You're going to have those issues. Whereas if you're a team that was born and raised on the in the growth of Adelaide as an organic city, like Port Adelaide was, and you have 140 odd years existing in one spot, then you're not going to have those issues. So it
Yeah, if
is.
Norwood didn't shit the bed, when they did, there would be two clubs representing South Australia in the AFL, and they would both have bona fide home grounds and
Mm,
club rooms. But that's
and
not how it
histories.
unfolded, and only one club in SA has a bona fide home ground with spirit and soul and history. And
By the way, a lot of
whether
a lot of
whose
trophies in
fault
that
it is or
museum.
not,
Yeah.
one club doesn't, and they have to introduce their new players to a shed in a new development area in West Lakes.
Mm.
Um, so yeah,
That's what this week always brings up those because I've gotten better about it, but like just having to see that stuff on the socials and just the banter is just it's frustrating. But that's part of what we're here. We want to win these games so we can
yeah, yeah.
give a
It's
history lesson
funny all
essentially.
the small man syndrome that kind of gets like pointed each way.
It is pretty
like
funny, isn't it? Yeah.
like it's definitely Port Adelaide want to win because we believe we're in some ways we are the big brother
Mm.
and we want to win so we want that confirmation that yeah, we're the guys. Like we're the club representing South Australian football. You're the franchise amalgamated and you're here because of us. That's our we want to win because we're the best club in South Australia and we're the ones who got this fucking thing going.
Yeah, we
You want to
should have
win
had the first
because
license and all that stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You want to win because you believe you're the big brother by sheer fact that you chose to represent 9 SANFL clubs
Yeah, you took the easy way
and
out.
your name is the capital city of the state that we reside in.
Yeah, some shit song and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, you have the Navy Marine song. That's cool. Good on
Mm,
you. But yeah, like, but at the very core of it, it's all very small man syndrome.
yeah.
Like, it's all very like inferiority complex.
Mm,
Because if we win and we win a lot, you're going to feel inferior, Adelaide Crows, because you are just amalgamated soulless shell. You're a Gold Coast
mm,
um of 30 plus years ago, or GWS. So yeah, we'll get a bit fretty
mm.
um in that confirmation bias. Like, no, 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 we're the real we're the big club, we're the real club. Like, but there's only one of them, and that's Port Adelaide. So
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's what I always like about the opportunity in Showdown Week is like if we can get the win, it confirms our status because I think every time the Crows win, it's just like them trying to punch up and say, no, we belong here too, and we are the club for. But then whenever we win, it's just like, well, this is what we've been doing for 153 years now,
yeah,
so fuck off. Um,
yeah,
but it's what
you're
I enjoy
just
about it. But
another
that's where the
yeah, you're just
anxiety
another
comes from
team
too.
along the way
Yeah, yeah,
that we're beating. Yeah.
yeah. We've beaten a lot over the years, and you're just another one. But yeah, that's probably where my frustration comes from. Is just like I, particularly in the wider AFL and the wider fan context of now it being a sport that we in the modern era we try to advertise around the world. It's just like the misrepresentation of history and how it works for others. Because you see some people say some stuff that they just don't realize is wrong, and so a showdown win
Yeah.
gives us the opportunity to right those wrongs. I think, and that's what we would need to be aiming for. Um, but geez, how do you deal with like? Do you This is a question before we get into just dealing with the preview stuff for the next 20 minutes before you need to go. How do you deal with like? Do you look forward to showdowns? Because I don't know if I do. I
Um,
look forward
I don't
to
know if anyone genuinely does. And
yeah
if they do, they're probably not a true supporter of either side. Or I have serious doubts whether you
yeah.
have an allegiance.
Hmm.
Um,
You look for them when
the
it comes.
awkward thing is when I've gone into a showdown feeling confident, which then is a you should be even more nervous because you're confident kind of thing.
Mm,
Um, it was a game, obviously one of them last year, I think. I think it was the first showdown last year. I thought I was feeling pretty confident and yeah, we didn't win, obviously, but I think it was maybe 2021. There was one game. I think it was the second showdown of the year. We were obviously going really well, and the Crows, obviously, we all know their last
hmm.
8 years.
That was the one that we won in the
But
end,
they
but it was
just
with
made it an absolute fucking scrap.
it was like
And
50 to 40 or something like that. I feel like we won by like a really
we
small
didn't win
margin.
by much. I think Sam Powell Pepper kicked one of the last goals
Hmm.
to. I think we had to get ahead late. I think Alir won the medal
That was it.
because
That
he
was it.
featured prominently.
Yeah, that was the
But
one
that
that
wasn't that. Sorry, what was that?
I was just gonna say that was the Tom Jonas one at the end where he's like, "Showdown wins a showdown win." Fuck you.
Showdown win. Pretty sure it was. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah.
was that
Because
one.
at the end of
Yeah,
it, it was just like, oh well, thank fuck.
yeah.
But yeah, fuck you.
Mm.
Um, but that was another game where I was like, I'm pretty confident.
We should
And
have
then
won.
the game
Yeah,
unfolds, and you're like, yeah, see, this is why you shouldn't be fucking confident. Like, you should just shut the
because
fuck up.
a couple of weeks later we beat Carlton by like 100 points. Like we had
Yeah,
the
yeah, I
capability
was
to.
there for that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was too. Yeah, and we had the capability to beat teams pretty handily at times that year, but we just twice. I mean, I think the earlier game in the year we beat the Crows decently. But yeah, I agree. It rarely goes to form or what you expect in your mind.
yeah,
I've been at some of the great ones. I was at the last one at Amy, um, which was obviously the Gussie Monfrey's like it's going
yeah,
at right angles. And then I was at the Motlop. What a time! And then yeah,
yeah. I was there too. Yeah,
there's been some great ones that, but
it would have been good to go to the COVID lockout
yeah,
showdown.
the one that had 2,000 fans there and won by 75
Yeah,
points. Like the one time
yeah.
that
I
we
missed
really
out on that.
we really fucking blitzed them. Yeah, yeah, I did
Mm.
too. Unfortunately, I didn't get the which obviously the time being it was COVID and everything. I understand what they were doing, but yeah, I was disappointed to miss that one. But yeah, you rarely look forward to them, and they rarely go to plan or expectation, which is what gives me the trepidation going into this week. But it
It's
is
what
interesting.
also continues the story of the showdown. No matter how your feelings are towards the other team, it's also what keeps that rivalry.
Gives
It
it
just
such
keeps
fire.
that allure
Hmm.
um moving on year to year.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing is like it's the fact that we're at 27 and 27 with both teams having gone through massive peaks and troughs at different times to each other over the last few years. Yes, there's been some big wins, big demolition wins that haven't been contests, but generally they've been pretty damn close. Um, the weather's looking good for it. 21 degrees is the max on the day. I think a minimum of 9, so you just be looking at, and it's sunny, so you just be looking at it's pretty
A bit of a
standard day.
dewy football,
Yeah, just
perhaps.
pretty standard kind of time of year, like for an early May game that it is going to be. Kind of just stand the best footy weather you could ask for at this time of year. So no excuses there. I guess the big thing before we get into our things, like last year, I had a few stats. They beat us by a combined 78 points. I think the first game was 31 points. The second one was 47 points. Obviously, that first one, us in our prison bars, which was a bit of a letdown. This one is obviously a Crows home showdown, so no, it's a Crows home ground, home fans. So we won't be wearing the prison bars or anything like that. But yeah, 78 points combined lost last year to a team that was out of the finals, and we were a top four team. Pretty inexcusable in that front. Um, minus 20 in contested possessions in both games. They smashed marks inside 50. They smashed us in both games as well, which was interesting because that's
Yeah.
typically one of the things we're better at.
Summed up
Um,
our defensive woes for the season as a whole and our
yeah,
need for extra defensive help.
yeah. I meant
Because they're
our marks inside our forward 50.
all right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
because we they their average last year was less than ours, but they smashed us in both games. And particularly one of the games that we had more inside 50s, they still had like 5 more marks inside 50s. So that's just they were just better at getting. That was how their game went last year. They were a lot better. They just had us worked out, and it makes me worried a little bit for this year as well because I still think they, even though they're in different patch of form, I think they've gotten better in the last 3 weeks. Obviously, the win against Carlton was a good one. Kangaroos, they should be winning that one. They did. Um, it was around the ground disposals, clearances, everything. They really comprehensively beat us last year, which was concerning. Um, but they're 2-5 on the year. Their wins over Carlton and Kangaroos, obviously, but they lost to Gold Coast, Freo, Melbourne, and Essendon and Geelong. A pretty decent bunch of teams in there. Some indifferent, but some decent. Yeah, it's yeah. Just before we get into the ins and outs and our things before we finish up here, how do you feel about just the general vibe around what you think when you look at that what I've just read out to you about last year and then thinking about the teams going into this year? Yeah, how does that make you feel? Because I don't feel good reading
Oh, they'll
when I did my stats dive, I was like, oh god, it reminded me as
particularly considering where they sit this season so far, they'll be taking a lot of inspiration from those two games last season in particular to say that, I mean, yeah, similar to what I've said, it doesn't fucking matter.
Mhm.
But equally, like, I do think that we're inside our four walls, we'll be warming to the challenge of obviously having to back up a game where we lost a few troops, but B, also like losing two straight to a team that hasn't played finals in fucking 8 years.
Mhm.
Like they'll want to atone for it, that's for sure. And I can imagine Rosie would be pretty gutted that they would all be gutted, but him being the captain. Um,
I will note that
yeah,
I did see on Twitter as we were recording our last one that he is listed as available. I
yeah.
don't I don't
So doubtful
I
about that.
don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. I don't think we should.
Particularly, yeah,
Yeah.
in the review. I think I said in the review and not off air, but yeah, him coming back, he did not look right.
He did,
So
yeah. You did say that in a review, yeah.
I would be. We need to think big picture still.
Mhm.
Rosie's got a lot more important things to do, hopefully this season, and I would hate to rush him back for what is an important game, but at the very core of the season, it is just another game.
It is, yeah. It's whether or not you win the showdown or not. It's not worth 8 points. It's not worth 12 points. It's still just worth four
Yeah,
points.
it's
Yes,
four.
we want to win
So
them, but
yeah,
you don't
but
risk
yeah,
your captain with what looked like it was a low grade hamstring strain. So let's talk about it as it was. And generally, those are at least a week out. So um,
yeah, yeah,
we did it
yeah.
with
Already had a couple of players this
we did it with
season.
HORNE-FRANCIS and Ollie Wines this year. We've left them out for a week or
Yeah.
two because of
Well,
and they've
and
come
Horn
back just fine.
Francis, yeah, he's
Yeah,
yeah, come back famously. So
yeah.
yeah, no, I think there'll be attitudes on both sides encouraging, yeah, either side to um put in a good performance. I'm not as doomsday about us considering,
Hmm.
but I'm sure we'll get into that in a moment.
Yeah. First of all, if we get into our ins and outs or whatever, sorry, our things, but the ins and outs is probably the biggest thing for the weekend. Um,
Yeah, and
it's
obviously we're
obvious,
recording this prior to any
yeah.
teams being listed, as
And
yeah,
and
everyone
as I've
listening would
just
probably know.
yeah,
But yeah,
as I've said, Brosy is listed as available, but my assumption, just my personal opinion, is he won't be risked, and it shouldn't be risked. That will be a criticism I have if they do risk him, and it does go. Look, he could be played and have a great game, and then we go, oh, what we were worried about. But just based on my knowledge of these things, I wouldn't risk him.
sure. Yeah.
Obviously, Aaliyah is out and SPP is out for the year. Aaliyah, I think he'll be fine next week. He seemed pretty chipper after the game too.
Yeah,
So,
no, I agree.
but that brings into, and obviously Finlayson is available after 3 weeks off with his suspension. And then just with the ins, there's a lot of movement here. There's some
Well,
players
and
that,
yeah, Cleary, Burton, and I think Francis Evans were all held back from
mm,
SANFL duty
yes,
over
yeah.
the weekend.
So where do you? Well, I'll put it to you. I have my three that I'd bring in, but I'll put it to you first.
Well, I mean, you can't forget the game where Cleary should have won the Showdown medal for
Hmm.
holding Tex goalless, I think it was. And like Cleary's missed a lot of top line football, and he's been, by all accounts, training on a wing. But I can't imagine a player like that just forgetting our defensive system. Like
Mm. Well, he's
he's
always
a
been
lot,
a pretty reliable player wherever you've plugged him in as well. Like, I mean, which has been mostly defensively, but
him
yeah,
being out of the team has been heartbreaking considering that he was in career best form before he started accumulating all the injuries that he did.
it was that smash.
Um,
It was that smashed cheek
Smash
against the
Jaw,
dogs against. I think which is what
which
started
just
it. Yeah.
started a terrible run of various injuries too. I think knees, backs, like
Mm.
yeah. Um,
Which is 3 years ago now, I think. Yeah, it's been a while.
Look, I think it'd be very brave to bring Finlayson back in because we know the reception that he is bound to get. Um,
Yeah.
but they still have to be pragmatic about it.
Well, they
So
have to sit there and go. My thought, because just to butt in, somewhat rudely, but um, if they do want to bring him in, then just make sure you've had the guys around him to talk him through. Like, obviously, whatever meant, because you've got to talk him through and say, look,
yeah.
you're going to get booed the probably get booed the shit out of. And while it's unfair to a certain extent, it's also, yes, you brought that on yourself. How do you deal with that and go through the game and just block it out and have you and for the rest of the 22, 23 that are out there on the day, they
Hmm.
need to understand to get around him and make sure that they're helping him block out that white noise
Yeah.
and or make it white noise. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that they'll want to replace out of Sam Pepper's game is his pressure.
Hmm.
The goals, um, kind of running capacity, yeah, all the other good parts of Pep's game. I think, if anything, the main thing that they'll want to replace, like bring someone in who can fill the void, is in regards to the tackling pressure and
Mm.
pressure accents, particularly inside 50. And and I think a lot of people are going to hate it,
I
but I
know what
think
you're
that's
about to
why they're going to
say.
bring back in McEntee.
Yep.
Um, because whether you like it or not, those were the things that he was doing, and I think leading the club, particularly tackles inside 50. I think Darcy Byrne-Jones, in terms of pressure acts, is right up there.
Mm.
Um, which just shows that we're covering Willie Rioli for inside tackles inside 50 against St Kilda, which was leading for Port. Um, so everyone's lifting, but in a game that is going to be hot and filled with pressure, I just have a sneaking suspicion that although Francis Evans was held back, they'll probably still go with McEntee.
Yeah.
Um,
I think
which
just
means that Finlayson
he
plays
hasn't.
SANFL.
Yeah.
I think that Mead will start, and look, Cleary might be a great chance to come back in. And even if it's for one game,
Hmm.
he has the experience. He has the experience in showdowns. I don't know, have no idea what his fitness is like. But like I said, he wouldn't just lose all that knowledge of how our defensive system would work. And one of his better games in the handful of games that he has played recently has been in the showdown.
Hmm.
So yeah, because they have Fogarty, they have Tex. I don't think Thilthorpe is ready to come back yet. I'm not
No, no,
100% sure.
he's still 3 to 4 weeks away at least at the
Yeah,
moment.
wow,
So
what a
yeah,
terrible injury for them.
yeah, yeah. No, it was basically a first half of the year. Just don't.
Basically, it's similar to Ollie Lord for us,
Yes.
just right
Yeah.
on the eve of the season.
Hmm.
Um, so look, we're covering two tall forwards. Do they trust Radaglia and Zerk Thatcher, who has been playing a bit bigger than what he sits at?
Hmm.
I don't think so. I think Fogarty and Tex are probably just a fraction too powerful. Although Fogarty's been a bit meh
Hmm.
this season thus
Although,
far.
although my disaster modeling that I do in my mind goes, this is
Oh yeah, 100%.
he gets off
Nathan
the hot.
Murphy is
Yeah.
probably going to get selected for Adelaide, and he's going to be typical. He's going to have a typical pest-like game and bob up at the most opportune moments, and you can bank on him playing his best game for the
Wait,
year.
who? Wait, who?
Murphy, not Nathan Murphy. Sorry. What's his fucking name? Nathan Murphy is the player who just retired.
Yeah.
Lachlan Murphy.
Oh yes, yeah, 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 yep, yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. There's
without a
gonna be,
doubt, no matter how shit of a year he's had,
and
he's bound. Yeah,
they're talking about how that Dan Curtin that's been playing pretty well for him down in the Sandful as well. It's like one that's been
yeah. Look, I mean,
named as a
debut in a showdown,
and
throws the yeah cat
yeah.
amongst the pigeons.
Yeah, no, I agree with your ins and outs. So like I thought McEntee's probably got to be a chance to come back just based on the injuries that we've had, and he kind of was in there playing the SPP role. So when if Powell-Pepper's out for the year, then it just seems like a plug and play kind of thing. I'm interested where Burton comes back into the mix because
Hmm.
whether they throw him down back to try to be a bit of a body, but like his pressure, like his, that's been probably one of the things we've been a little bit hard on him about, and why he got dropped was like his ability to his endeavor has been a bit off. And that's not that this isn't the kind of game that you want that, but maybe, and we'll touch on it when I get to my things in a second. But yeah, it's he's been one of the ones that's talked a lot of talk in the last couple of years. So be nice to see him. Uh, cool. Yeah, get that. Kind of. I'd love to see him get a good game in it because I do like Ryan Burton. I think he can be
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I think like I've said it to you before. I think he has all Australian ability. He doesn't have. It's
Well,
just
we discussed it,
it's the endeavor.
last in our Collingwood review. He's had games in the past where he's just absolutely lit up the track, and yeah, everyone knows his capabilities. It just
Mm.
has for some reason
Just
eluded him.
last
in
18
particular
months.
moments, particular games as a whole. And yeah, putting the Crows' tools to one side, they've also got a few handy smalls as well. And
That's where my worry probably.
Lockie Jones, Dylan Williams isn't that fast, so again, he's going to have to rely on his smarts
Mm,
and effective ball use. But Lockie Jones, Kane Farrell, they've got big roles pegged for themselves this weekend because those are our two probably more nimble and quick small to medium defenders.
hmm
Right, yeah. If Burton does come back in, um, yeah, I yeah, I mean, I'd expect a big improvement in regard to his defensive accountability, his decision making
hmm
under pressure.
Yeah, and it's going to be very vital in this one, I think, as well, because yeah, I think their forward line, though they've struggled this year at times. Like they've been getting their midfield mix a little bit better over the last couple of weeks. The Crows,
Yeah, recently. Yeah,
obviously, Saligo's been getting big raps there for them.
sure.
Dawson after a quiet,
Deservedly so.
yeah, absolutely, and Dawson after a quiet start's been finding form again. And they've finally started kind of running. They've still, I think, they've still got a long way to go as to figuring out what their mix is as far as their attendances and time in midfield for the likes of Rankin and Richelli. But they're starting to get a little bit more production out of them over the last few weeks, which was where they fell down at the start of the season, was just not getting that out of the likes of Richelli and Rankin. And Rankin
Yeah, it was
scares
stinky.
Rankin scares the absolute shit out of me. So which is
Yeah,
me giving ultimate respect to him as a player. He's a
absolutely. But he's
fantastic
capable
player.
of
And
going missing too.
yeah,
So that's what
uh,
I mean. Lockie Jones or Kane Farrell are probably going to be the ones, unless they roll Burgoyne back, which
mhm.
I would be surprised at though, considering the form he's in a wing. And also
And
Miles
what?
Bergman got rolled back when our chips were down against St Kilda, and like it's such a quandary with Miles Bergman because
Mhm.
he's just such a good defensive mark, and his defensive positioning is just so good. Like that's another lever that they could pull.
Yeah,
Because I mean, Bergman did a job on Jeremy Cameron last year,
yeah,
when we played Geelong at home. So
yeah, and a comfortable win in the end as well. Yeah,
like we're just like, yeah, I mean, it's the difficulty of trying to predict these things before teams are listed and whatnot. But it's a good thing, like where on one hand we're going, fuck, we've got some injuries to some key personnel, but on the other hand,
we're still
there
trying to
are
figure
a
out
lot
the
of these
mix.
levers that we
Yeah.
can still pull with some quality players.
hmm
And that's just moving on to the midfield point of view, like in our St Kilda review, which I'm sure people listening and watching this preview have already listened to or watched. Like the midfield did lift when Rosie went down, but it also might just be an opportunity to kind of simplify because we've put a lot of numbers through our midfield rotations. So with one less person
It's been a lot of a
rotating
storyline,
through,
hasn't it? Yeah, like the
yeah,
midfield
albeit a
attendances has been a
very
storyline.
important player,
Mm.
yeah, and our captain, it may just allow everyone just a little, just simplify the task at hand. I'm going to spend a little bit more time in the midfield, whoever it may be. They all
Mm.
are. Um, Ollie Wines coming off of a good game that we both gave him votes for. Zach Butters wanting to atone for probably a less than um, average game by his
Yeah,
standards.
lot of the ball
Um,
just a little bit loose with it. So yeah.
but for Jace Burgoyne, who was best on ground, Willem Drew, who got the medal, there's more than enough coverage and flexibility in terms of your attack and your defense
Yeah,
in the midfield. So
just a bloke by the name of Travis Spoke that's just ready to pinch in there here and there as well. Like,
yeah, and there was the thing about the discussion with Rosie coming back onto the ground on Friday night is you could have, in my opinion, you could have easily just gone Rosie forward and put Boak in the rotation,
mm,
but was it an age thing?
Yeah,
The
whether they're
fact that he
just
was
not
coming
quite.
back from a spell, low rotations. But yeah, absolutely, they can
Mm,
put Boak in the middle. It doesn't have to be that often. And if we're in a situation where, for a period of time, and I hope it's not the case, but we're not getting it forward, put that senior head in an area where he's relished in
because he
his,
was getting some tackles and applying
highlight
pressure. Yeah.
years. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just some seniority,
Mm,
making some good decisions under pressure, um, directing traffic a little bit,
mm,
working with Ollie Wines, who is now another senior leader of the team.
mm,
It's why, while you can doomsday a little bit because of the outs that we have, our depth is still pretty good. And
mm.
if it's as good as what we think and what we are saying that it is, like there's still enough quality there that we should cover a team who is, yeah, not having the start of the season that they would expect and not playing their best football. Um,
But clearly
there's definitely
still,
opportunity there to grab.
yeah, there's clearly still a decent team because I think I even looked at their Geelong. You know, they haven't lost terribly to teams. They're just not applying themselves very well. Um, our things we decided to go a little bit special on this one and do two things each rather than the things to watch for the game. Rather than do three, we're going to do two each. Um, I will say one of mine was kind of covered there. We just went into it naturally. Adjustments for the game was one of mine,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
and we went into it naturally there, which is good because we're on we have a bit of a time crunch to get through today. But so yeah, but one of my things was just how we adjust to the injuries and what we're doing, which we've just touched on, is like just the midfield mix, defensive mix. Forward lines for the one area, ironically, that is actually quite stable at the moment. Although it depends how we if we
Albeit with an out, yeah.
yeah, with
But
Finlay.
we played 4 games without him.
That's what I mean. Yeah, he's
So
just like
yeah.
he's only just been coming back in. So McEntee is a at the moment, like obviously Sam Pepper is a lot better of a player than McEntee. No derogatory. I'm not trying to be mean to
Yeah,
McEntee.
no,
It's
no,
just
it's just yeah.
McEntee
It
knows
is what it is.
we all know where he is at. And again, Finlayson. It depends if we do bring him back, which it'd be interesting because we haven't even touched on it. Jordan Sweet had a decent game last week, but still there's a bit of synergy with the midfield that is off. Just which is natural. He's been thrown
I
into
mean,
the
he had 15 hitouts to advantage, which was the overall leader.
yeah.
Like Roll Marshall had 6.
Yeah, Mitch Marshall was
So
a little hobbled, but he still played out the game. So
granted, yeah.
you've got to just play it on its merits. And a hobbled Marshall, I assume, is still a pretty decent player. So, but yeah, so adjustments all over the field is one of my things because there's a lot. Like obviously, the
Yeah.
attrition that we copped last week with the game was significant. So we're going to be adjusting a lot of even if there's players that are still playing, there's going to be a different mix in midfield and all that. So it'd be really intriguing to see how that goes. But my other thing for the week is after the last couple of years, we've lost 3 out of the last 4 showdowns in years that we're meant to be. You know, this Crows team hasn't made the finals in 7, 8 years. Well, since they played in the grand final, they haven't made finals since. But yet we've lost 3 of the last 4 showdowns in a time that we have been a top 4 team. We need to walk the walk and not just talk the talk. And I'm somewhat referring to the comments on radio over the last couple of years with Ryan Burton saying they hate them and stuff like that. And I actually agree with, I like the fact that Port players and Port coaches and Port people come out and say those things about the Crows because we do. Like, let's not hide from that. We do hate them. We don't fucking like them. I don't respect them very much. Um, but
Yeah.
if you're going to say those things, I want it backed up. And the effort on the field last year was sadly wanting in that department. And you need to,
Yeah,
if you're going to come
absolutely.
out and say those things, then you need to be able to at least back it up a little bit. And it was the effort was just not there at all last year. And conversely, on the other side, the Crows played like a team that was saying those things, but they just
Yeah, yeah,
yeah
absolutely.
they
And
played with
they
it.
had a great season as a whole, particularly against top 4 teams,
Yeah,
top 8 teams, funnily enough.
yeah.
But yeah, I agree. They've looks like they've put it away for this year.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, just go out and
Have that attitude. I love it.
fucking dominate. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah. If
don't
it's
mind
whether
it
it's
at all.
in-house still,
Yeah.
just go out and do it.
And you know it is
Do
when
the job.
Chad Corns is a coach there. You know it's definitely in house.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
so
Well, and
yeah.
every year I believe they put new players through a bit of a history lesson as well, leading up to
Hmm.
the first showdown. So yeah, they would be talking about it and the history behind it and whatnot. So yeah,
Josh Carr telling a
um,
few stories about the Ramsgate, probably stuff like that. Yeah,
yeah, and how easy showdowns are because I believe he has a 10-0 record in them.
he does. Yeah,
As a player, but
incredible,
yeah.
really.
Um, but yeah, one of my things was that like it's purely vibe based because it just happens to be the second time in 3 weeks. But we seem to always come up against sides that have like an extra emotional element to
Hmm.
their week. So we played Collingwood, who were coming off of a bye and had all of their best team pretty much available, but they also had the extra um push with Nathan Murphy retiring, who I incorrectly named before Lockie
As
Murphy, but
playing in the
Nathan
showdown.
Murphy
Yeah.
for Collingwood retired medically, so they had a
Hmm.
bit of extra oomph to play to get the win, and obviously Rory Sloane medically retiring, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
this week, and will that obviously the Crows will probably want to use that. I hear he's doing like a lap of honor or something,
Hmm.
but yeah, like again, it's purely vibe based. I'm sure this happens to every club for
Hmm.
various reasons, whether it be the opposition having milestones or whatever. But yeah, we seem to just come up against clubs that have extra emotional, um, not baggage, like the opposite of baggage, like
Yeah.
encouragement, I guess you could say. So whether that will distract the Crows, spur them on, or whatnot, whatever comes, we have to absorb it. I feel that we're probably going to have to absorb a bit early and repel it and get on top.
Hmm.
I hope that we can, well, we didn't against Collingwood. I hope we can, if that's a scenario where we find ourselves in, I hope we can combat that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and credit to not that we will give credit to too many Crows, but Rory Sloane's been a pretty damn good competitor without being a dickhead, unlike some other players at that club. So I'll give him his due.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah. A
yeah,
lot of respect for Rory. Thought he was
yeah,
gypped by the umpires in 2016 or 17, where the votes went more to Patrick Dangerfield.
hmm,
It would have been 16 because I think Dangerfield left at the end of that year, where I thought Rory Sloane was a much better player for the Adelaide Crows, but
yeah,
that's enough about that. Rory Sloane, good player. Disappointing way to go out.
hmm, yeah. But hope you keep watching him lose. Um,
Yep.
and your other thing as well.
Yeah, just a little tidbit, but just a general curiosity. Obviously, you've got the inexperience of Jordan Sweet versus the experience of the maligned Riley O'Brien, very maligned within Adelaide Crows supportership. But yeah, as we just spoke about, Jordan Sweet, I think he's actually been pretty good
Mm,
um, in the games that I've seen him play, both in the preseason and then in the last couple of weeks that he's played for Port Adelaide. He's young, he's athletic, but his tap work, while it lacks a bit of synergy with our midfielders, like I said, he had 15 hitouts to advantage, and I think he actually had more hitouts to advantage than Soldo against Collingwood, albeit the balance was
really,
off
there's
as we
yeah, really
kind of
funky.
alluded didn't allude to. We actually discussed it.
Mm,
We thought Soldo should have probably occupied centre bounce and stoppage more often than Sweet in that game, but at the end of the day, Sweet got the opportunity, and he still had a high number of hitouts to advantage, which are really the most important thing as a ruckman.
mm,
My next most important thing is the second efforts once the ball hits the fucking ground. And I think
yeah.
Sweet, in particular on the weekend, that was a feature of his game. So where Rob, I think, is good in his around the ground marking, which has actually let him down this year. I think I've seen a lot of Crows supporters on social media actually comment on the fact that if anything, that's probably one thing you can give to Rob over the years, but this year he's actually hasn't been doing as much of that. So at the end of the day, he's a formidable ruckman in the fact that he's a big body. He has experience on his side. General game smarts, probably not the right word for it, but the experience factor helps him out. And Sweet being inexperienced, being a lifelong Port Adelaide supporter playing in his first showdown, he'll probably want to make a mark on the game. And
Mm.
I'm looking forward to that battle. because they will, without a doubt, occupy a very large number of centre bounce and stoppage.
Yeah, no, it's a great thing to bring up to close it out too, because that kind of ruck battles in the showdown have often been kind of defining as well. You know, you had Scott Lycett have his moments over the years, like a little shove on one of the Crouch brothers, I think it was back in the day. But there's been a few. But Riley O'Brien's, I'm pretty sure he's got a showdown medal in his past. He's had some big games, and yeah, it's going to be a big one. I'm really excited
Mm.
for it. Thank you for giving me a bit of time to and having a bit of time to preview it isolated, because we've given it about 40 minutes here, which is more than we usually give on the back end of a standard
Yeah, yeah,
podcast.
yeah. Like
So
I said, it's without a doubt an important week on the SA calendar, and
mm,
yeah, just wanted to give it a bit more breathing room to
yeah,
talk of the importance of the game, and it is, and we'll either be sitting in our arrogant stew come Friday morning, or we'll be wallowing in self-pity for a week,
yeah,
um,
and it'll be
maybe longer.
yeah.
But
I'm still
yeah,
wallowing a
it's
little
what
bit
we
from
live
last
for.
year's. Anyway, I know you need.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's that too. There's yeah, agony or ecstasy wherever you go.
Yeah. Anyway, I know you need to dip out, so thank you, Jamie. Appreciate you coming on and
No
giving
worries.
me the
Thanks for
time as
listening,
usual.
guys, and yeah, thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's hope for a good win.
Yeah, absolutely. As usual, as I always say, follow on the socials, like, subscribe, review, whatever, all those buzzwords that people do. I'm doing hand motions. I don't know why.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's it's one
hopefully plenty
dude.
of these ones.
Yes, yeah, and one
For Port.
two in particular.
Yeah,
Yeah, Charlie
that's
Dixon,
goals for the
Todd Marshall,
listeners.
Mitch Georgiades, bags, bags on bags on bags, the good kind.
Yeah.
There's many good kinds of bags. Some people would say. Anyway,
Mhm.
that's an after dark kind of comment. It's 1:40 in the morning for me over here, so I can say that. Anyway,
Wow. Yeah, yeah. Pure bag territory.
I'm a peacock. You got to let me fly. That's a throwback to the last episode. Anyway, Khan the fucking pair. Let's win this fucking showdown and get to 6-2 on the season. Let's fucking do it.
Yeah,
Beat the
go
fucking
lads.
beat the fucking Crows.